All right. I'm going to try to do something real quick that I've been meaning to do. I'm just going to talk to myself for a minute and see if I can get this right. It's a simple thing. I just want to see if it's something available to me. Hey, what's up, Tyler? Damn, you're on here fast. You must have got the notification right away. Who thinks you're ugly? Hey, what's up, Mr. Divine? I'm glad to see people are getting notified this time. That was mainly a joke because I did a poll the other day to see kind of what people thought I should do with the channel. What's up, Istad, you jackass? YouTube had my notifications set to some. I had to manually change it to all. Yeah, I just saw a bunch of people in the comments saying that they're just not getting notified of any of my stuff. So what I'm trying to see if I can do here is pop the chat on screen. Unfortunately, it looks like the only way to do it is to be already live. So hopefully... Oh, shit. So hopefully it'll just take a minute here. This will add your YouTube chat to OBS screen. And paste the URL. See, I was hoping to have it on screen for you guys so that you could all see it, and plus it would make it easier for me to see. But oh yeah, the who thinks I'm ugly thing. Yeah, so I did a poll the other day just to see what people thought for the channel. If I should do like just get rid of the avatar, if I should just go ahead and show my face, or if I should just go back to the way I was doing things. And it wasn't really for any like one particular reason as much as I wanted to change something to see if it would help with this copyright shit that I've been dealing with. I don't particularly have a preference, but I was joking because I was joking because OBS is not very friendly sometimes. Because in the poll, I think like maybe 15 people voted or something, or maybe a little bit more than that. But it was either 0 or 1 votes for me to do a face reveal. And then the other ones were pretty close to split between no and also no, but get rid of the avatar. So I was just kind of laughing about that no one wanted a face reveal, which I thought was interesting. Because there's some people that I watch that it seems like every stream they do, because they're faceless YouTubers, people were like, oh, you know, do a face reveal. I don't really care. It doesn't change the amount of work for me at all. Other than, you know, if I was on camera, I'd have to be a little bit more mindful of just how I look. I didn't see a poll. My vote wasn't counted. Yeah, that's why I was talking about people not getting notifications. I don't know if that's just a YouTube thing, because that's something I've seen big YouTubers deal with all the time. Well, their chat will just be filled with people who are like, I too didn't see a poll. Yeah, their chat will just be filled with people who are like, I'm not getting any notifications for your channel. So I don't like, my channel is so small. I don't know why YouTube would bother, or if it's just like a weird quirk in the algorithm, or maybe they filter out for certain things, like certain titles or words or something. I have no idea. Because even my views are much lower for me than normal, which is a little bit annoying. But it's like, I want to call myself a conspiracy theorist and be like, oh, YouTube's coming after the guy with less than 1,000 subscribers. It doesn't make any sense. So okay, so yeah, I guess I'm just gonna give up on the chat for this one. I don't want to sit here and have you guys just listen to me screw around with you know, the channel. The only thing that I could maybe think to do, let me try one thing really quickly and then I'll let it go. Because I think there's a window capture option. So maybe I can just add that the chat window on here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there we go. Now chat should be on the screen for you guys. The only thing I have to figure out now is decent portions. Because I'm sure no one really gives a shit about me playing Mass Effect. Anyway. How does that size look for you guys? Like for the chat? Because I don't know where people are. I assume you're watching on your phone. While you're screwing around, how far are you into Atlas Season 3? I actually haven't started yet. I have something I have to take care of tomorrow that's kept me pretty busy the last couple of weeks, which is also why I haven't done much video-wise. But then after tomorrow, I'll have a little bit more free time. I'm going to get to it. Because I want to get to Atlas Season 3, since I want that one to be done before the end of June to keep up with the request. And I also want to... I can read the chat with a magnifying glass. Damn it. Maybe if I zoom in on the window. How the hell do other people do it? Okay. Let's see. Oh, there we go. That should be better. Streamlabs is your friend. You know, I tried to mess with Streamlabs about half an hour ago before I started the stream. And I guess I could probably crop this too, huh? You guys can see all the behind the scenes shit that I don't know how to do. I was trying to mess with Streamlabs a little bit beforehand to see if I could if I could get this to work more smoothly. But Streamlabs wasn't super friendly, which is a little bit irritating. Alright, iStat says that when he gets back to California, he'll walk me through it. That bitch is drunk in Vegas if anybody wants to go hang out with him. Yeah, I just doxed him again. Now you know he's in California or Vegas. But yeah, I don't honestly I wouldn't care to show my face. I mostly avoided it just because, you know, I'm not making any money on this obviously, and there's no reason for me to. He's now poor and drunk in Vegas. You guys didn't hit on craps. There you go, Istad. Tyler says he'll be there this week. What's too far? Oh, Vegas and California. So, yeah, I was deciding if I wanted to make a change to try to see if it would help with this copyright stuff. I think the only thing that I can do is just stop using video clips altogether, which is really frustrating because, you know, obviously I'm a fan of people like Mauler, Critical Drinker, and all those guys. And they're all faceless and they all have no problems. Like they do the same thing I do, except, you know, well, better, obviously. But I'm not going to say, I don't want to call him out too much because I don't want to get him in trouble. But Drinker has definitely used footage from the movies that's not in previews available on YouTube or anything. And they haven't seemed to really have any issues. I mean, I know Mueller's bitched about it during the upload process, but human-wise, it sounds like they've been fine for a while. Although, actually, they were just talking yesterday. I guess sometimes their videos get hit like a couple years later. Drinker has the gift. Yeah, I've heard those guys talk about like mirroring footage and zooming in a little bit or like altering the... Now it's back. Sorry about that. Looks like I lost connection for a second. Hopefully that's it. Yeah, I saw the internet cut out on my end. I'm hoping that was just a weird little snag. I stopped talking though. What I was going to say was all that stuff is fine for trying to sneak past the automated shit, but for the manual stuff, there are no rules. So like if Shamrock makes a video and I just want to be a total dick, I can go over to her channel and just claim it. And then she has to dispute it. Any money that she makes for 30 days, she just wouldn't get. And if I were to go for a full strike, then she would have to dispute it, risk me suing her, and wait 2 weeks and her channel would just be screwed the whole time. And that's what I mean is, I don't know why their process is just, everyone get fucked. Like they don't care at all. And I'm sure if you're a bigger creator, right? Say you have, 100,000 subscribers, which I would guess probably 1% of channels do, maybe. Then you can probably just reach out to YouTube and be like, hey, there's fuckery afoot. And that's it. I would wager that they would just take care of you. But if you're a person with 700,000, well, what do they give a fuck? I mean, sorry, 700,000. Jesus Christ. Inflate my numbers a little bit there. 700. What do they care? They're making very little money off me in the big picture. There's not really any incentive for them to spend their time on it. And then when you reach out to Team YouTube, they're just like, oh yeah, this is the process. Eat shit. They don't give a shit at all. So, yeah, it's just the whole thing's a pain in the ass. I was trying to figure out ways to avoid some of that stuff, even though I honestly don't even know if it would help because they just don't care. Like they have an automated process and that's it. So anyway, I'll stop bitching about that. My whole point with calling myself, with saying you guys were calling me ugly, is that I had 0 votes for a face reveal. Which I do find interesting because the people that I like that are faceless, I don't know if I want to see them, but I feel like what I picture in my head is probably fairly accurate anyway. Although I'll admit, I kind of just assume anybody who doesn't show their face is probably ugly. But I know it's probably for most people just a matter of not wanting to worry about doxing and privacy and that sort of thing. For me, that's what it is. So I assume that's how it is for a lot of other people. I mean, some people, I don't know if you guys watch very much political stuff or whatever, but Roaming Millennial, who I now just goes by Lauren Chen because that's her actual name, she was a faceless YouTuber for a long time. And, whatever you think of her opinions or her content, obviously she's very attractive. So, and slightly better news, I think the audio issues finally worked out. The only thing I'm still tweaking is I just want to be able to speak where I'm loud and clear, but also I don't want you guys to be able to hear me breathe or it sound like I'm trying to eat the fucking microphone or something. Because if I get too close to it, I can hear the lip smacking and shit in my own, like when I edit. Face reveal is totally your call. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be more inclined to if Mr. Divine said do a face reveal for 10,000 subscribers, which at the pace I'm going to be about a decade. But I think I'd be more inclined to if I did get a little bit bigger and was making money, because I do feel like there's a certain amount of people who kind of avoid you if you don't show your face. And then for someone like me who is very, I don't want to say I'm lazy with video editing, but I definitely don't focus on it because I just don't know how much it's sort of diminishing returns, I think. Like, it's really hard for me to imagine if I spent two or three times as much of my time on video editing that I would actually get really any more views out of it. Like, even when Mahler puts out his, 6-hour videos, I literally put it on the background and go to work. 2 years to get to 10K. Yeah, the thing with subscribers, it's weird. Like, I think I was at maybe 300 after like a year and 10 months, maybe October. And then after the Ahsoka show, I gained some. And then after the Halo show, I gained a couple hundred, which, when I had 400, I think the Halo show got me up to 700, which is like almost double. So I think it's really just a matter of being consistent and then also just the element of luck. Even though I think no one wants to admit that, I do think there's a huge element of luck with YouTube. But I'll stop talking about myself. Let's talk about other shit. So I watched the first episode of season 4 of The Boys this morning. I bet if you cranked out a really fast House of the Dragon review after the premiere tomorrow, it would jump up. I thought about that, but I didn't watch season 1. And I heard it was really good. I just had no inclination to watch Game of Thrones stuff. Knowing that the show ended the way that it did, and George R. R. Martin seems pretty content to just die without finishing, which I find to be really disrespectful to the fans. I know that there's people who are like, it's his story and his art and blah, blah, blah. Sharon Rock says she likes season 1. Yeah, I've heard only good things about it. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, see, like every person I've heard talk about it loved it. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to. Even if I wanted to catch up now, it's 10 hours to watch season 1, and I've got shit to do all day after this. So the stream is actually going to be relatively short again. Probably keep it to about hour and a half. But yeah, it's I don't know. I find it really disrespectful to to get rich off the fans, and then to essentially say get fucked. Do you usually read the books, comics before watching show or movie? It really depends. Sometimes I'll hear about like an anime show getting announced, and I'll have the book pop up all the time in my feed or the manga. So I'll check it out. And then sometimes, most of the time, I'll end up watching the first couple episodes of a few anime shows each season, or a TV show or whatever. And if I get really into it, then I'll go ahead and read the books and just get way ahead of the show material. It really just depends. I would say probably 75% of the time I see the stuff on TV or movies first. I mean, even something like The Maze Runner, which the movies were pretty bad. I saw the first movie, but then I binged the 3 books. So then I was looking forward to the second and third movie, and then obviously very disappointed. Oh, shit. Did I see the Arcane trailer? Yeah, Arcane was good. I definitely need to rewatch that before the show comes out. Because it was good, but there was a lot of material there, and I haven't watched it since it came out, which I think at this point was 3 years ago. I watched it right after all 3 parts had come out, because people just wouldn't stop talking about it. But I actually didn't have a channel at that point either to talk about it. So what I was going to say there about The Boys, I don't know where this sudden The Boys went woke thing came from. I don't know how anybody after season 2 could not realize what the show was. This is one that I wish I had a channel back then, because I thought season 2 sucked ass. And it was so overt. I couldn't believe that they did it, and I couldn't believe that people were still praising it. Like, even if you agree with all the far left, whatever you want to call it, shit, like, the show was bad. It was a bad show. And even if you like the politics, I would hope that you would want them to be, subtle and well done in the story. And The Boys is not that. Like, The Boys it's trash. So I actually was debating about making a video about this, but I don't know if I want to sit through 3 seasons of that fucking show again. See, that's what I was going to say. Mr. Divine said, I heard The Boys is talking about Trump's America. That started in season 2. And if I do make a video, this will be part of it. So whatever. I don't know if I'll make a video or not, because I really don't want to rewatch the show. But maybe I'll just do the thing where I skim through the episodes to find the stuff that's relevant, like Homelander being a stand-in for Trump. Yeah. See, that started, the producers came out and said that definitely before season 3. And I want to say maybe after season 2, like right after. And season 2, if you don't know the show, you haven't seen it, it's all superheroes that are super corrupt and evil. It makes fun of a lot of the corporate virtue signaling, whatever. So the first season, I thought, did a pretty good job, and I could just be, forgetting how bad it was now. But the consensus is, by and large, that season 1 did a pretty good job of kind of calling out corporate bullshit, being entertaining, being fun. And there's a little bit of political shit in there, but it's not like crazy. So season 2 comes along. They introduce a new villain, Stormfront, who they gender swapped. I don't know why. And Stormfront, throughout the whole season, is saying like mainstream conservative talking points. So, again, I don't really care what you believe. I'm not going to say what I believe. But she talks about wanting the society to be a meritocracy. Like, we shouldn't be worried about race, blah, blah, blah. And then you find out later on that she was a literal Nazi. So they have a literal Nazi spouting conservative talking points or right-wing talking points, whatever you want to call them. I don't even know if they're conservative or just classically liberal talking points, really. But either way, it doesn't matter. And so when you see that, it's like, oh, so the people of the show are very far left and they hate everyone who's, right of Bernie Sanders or Marx or whoever you want to use. And they also do shit throughout the season where she, you see, she's like, we're spreading our message to the populace and we're doing it using memes. And there's like the big dramatic music. It's all, it's just like this serious thing. And they show fat, sweaty white guys like watching YouTube videos and becoming incels and alt-right Nazi pipeline, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, see, Tyler says season 1 focused on the characters with the theme of dunking on corporations. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is season 1 handled that messaging, I thought, pretty well. And I feel like I don't want to get into all this political shit, but I feel like there's also a bit of a misnomer that like only the like left wing is anti-corporation. Everyone is pro-corporations that are doing shit that they want them to. Like when I'm blanking on the fucking hippie guy, Jack Dorsey. Like when Jack Dorsey was in charge of Twitter, the left defended him until he left. I mean, the left is defending Disney like they fucking work for them. Even though Disney shouldn't have anything to do with politics. And meanwhile, the right will defend like the healthcare system and shit, even though it's completely fucked. I'm not going to say what my views on healthcare and stuff are. I don't want to get into all that. I'm in the generally libertarian neighborhood, which I guess is probably obvious from the way I talk anyway. I would call myself an individualist. But, like they both have corporations that they have issues with and that they'll defend. And there seems to be this belief at large that only the left is anti-corporation. And really, if the corporations do shit that you want, people will defend them. Like, that's just how shit is. So I felt like the first season did a good job making fun of corporations, like Tyler said. And that's why it appealed to everyone. But then also the humor, I thought there was a bit more cleverness to it in the first season. And it's not that it wasn't brutal or anything like that, but now it just seems like they're going for shock value, and it's very lazy. Like in the first episode of season 4, you see a picture of someone's butthole. Like, that's what we're doing. Like kind of the same thing. I think it was season 3, episode 1, where you had the little Ant-Man guy crawl up a guy's asshole and then explode. Like all that type of shit is just shock humor. And I think that kind of stuff can work here and there. But when that's all you have, it just feels lazy. So for me, the show devolved from season 1 to season 2 a lot. And then that doesn't even get into the plot issues of like, you had this psychotic bad guy, right? Homelander. Chasing around these guys that he hates. One of them he thinks stole his son. And they just always escape. And they have no powers. It just makes it's just ridiculous. Like you've got the stuff with the Deep, which he was like a decent asshole, I thought, in season 1. And then they were like, oh, it'd be funny if he fucks a fish. And now like that's all his character is now. Like there's nothing else to him. I mean, in season 4, episode 1, I guess if anybody cares about spoilers, there's a scene where Homelander literally tells the Deep to suck A-Train's cock. And the Deep is going to do it until Homelander's like, see, this is why I'm pissed off. Nobody's disagreeing with me. You're all just kissing my ass. So after season 1, they had a literal fucking Nazi saying mainstream conservative talking points. The Boys has been going to shock value over progressing the characters. Yeah, exactly. And it's like the story has been kind of stuck in a loop since the end of season 1. Of just Homelander and Butcher are around each other a lot, but neither one dies, which is ridiculous. And then you throw in what's his face? I can't remember the guy's name now. He's such a bitch. Starlight's boyfriend. I can't remember his fucking name. I'm blanking on it. Because season 3 was a couple years ago at this point. And I think I watched it all in one night when I was drunk. I just don't understand why Hollywood is obsessed with dividing people by their politics instead of attempting to unite people. It's shoving the views of one side of the audience. Oh, Huey, thank you. It's shoving the views of one side down the throats of the audience. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I talked about this a little bit last stream. I don't think it's getting corrected anytime soon because they don't understand that their views are extreme for the most people. Like most normal people have, kind of boring political beliefs. So I don't know what they are doing. I don't know if they care because they're getting all the, DEI, BlackRock money and all that shit. You can go watch other people who talk about that stuff in depth. It is interesting. It's also kind of just a huge downer. They literally don't care if the movies and stuff make money because they get paid regardless. But yeah, so season 2 devolved into that shit with the Nazi. Season 3, I think season 2 was when they introduced the AOC soup, who was blowing up all the congressmen and shit. So this episode starts, right, and she's vice president now, or she's about to be. And in this one episode, they managed to fit in like a January 6th reference, which for people who don't know is when the quote unquote insurrection happened in 2020. Obviously they had all the white privilege stuff and male privilege stuff and blah blah blah, racism. They introduced a character in season 4 who's the black chick, and her character is smartest person in the world. And I didn't pause the screen because I was like, fuck this show. But when they do her little pop-up, you can see her whole thing is like self-made, and then it's like 8 different things that she's taught herself, which is everything. And it's like, oh, that's really original, you know? We definitely didn't see that in Black Panther or Black Panther 2 with Ironheart. Never been done before. Like, give me a fucking break, man. But what's fascinating to me, and the reason I wanted to bring it up, is I don't understand how people didn't see all the politics in this show from season 2 on. Like, and you'll hear people do this thing where they try to defend it. I believe, this is from Mr. Divine, I believe the left are the only group of people who push back a lot, see all the Palestine protests. Well, I think they push back the loudest. Like, if you look at the NFL ratings back when all that kneeling shit was happening, I know after about a year and a half, the ratings had dropped like 28%. And the audience for the NFL, I can't remember the exact breakdown, but I believe it's like 70% blue collar people, which are, you know, overwhelmingly Republicans. So I do think that the like conservatives and like the right wingers will protest, but not as vocally. And I think the vocal stuff is what scares the companies, because there's the branding aspect. And you can see that with stuff like Disney too, right? I wouldn't even call it right wingers necessarily as much as just regular people who are like, okay, like I've had enough Star Wars. They're not going to get online and make a fucking YouTube video or go on Twitter and spurg out and have an aneurysm. They're going to just say, okay, well, instead of watching Star Wars, I'll go watch The Gentleman or The Expanse or whatever the fuck, I don't know. And they'll just tune out. So I think that's part of the lag. And I think part of it is it's just so ideologically motivated that they don't care. Like if The Acolyte had 0 views, they were calling the fans racist and sexist before episode 1 even came out. And I see it online all the time. Like if you ever go to Threads, worst app in the fucking world, it has, from what I can tell, just all the people who were so mad about Elon Musk buying Twitter that they actually left Twitter to go to a shittier platform, because everything on there is crazy. But you'll just see it all the time of them talking about how people who didn't, yeah, not the thread, yeah, God, I didn't even think about that. But they'll be like, oh, people who didn't like the witches. Star Wars has had witches since this book in 1997, and it's like, yeah, that's true. And like the Witches of Dathomir came in the Clone Wars like 15 years ago. But if you're a regular Star Wars fan, you've seen the movies and then maybe a couple of the Disney Plus shows. Like, the people who read the Star Wars books are probably 1% of the fans, maybe less. Same for Halo. Like, I know that when I reference Halo books, most people are going to be like, what the hell is he talking about? Or they just don't care, either way. But Star Wars is the same thing. Like, it's just this. And so I think that what I was saying, though, I got distracted, is there's this lag because all they're seeing is their numbers go down, but they also don't care. Yeah, I've only read a couple of the Halo books. I would definitely recommend, if you're a reader, I would definitely recommend the Halo books. Pointing out the shittiness of something else doesn't cancel it out. It doesn't make it less shitty what we're talking about. Yeah, that's one of the weirdest things too, is like, that's a big online talking point where it's like, oh, well, this thing in the prequel trilogy wasn't good. And it's like, yeah, but then fine. Even if you agree with that, then they're both bad. Like, no one gives a shit. It doesn't make your shitty thing better. I mean, you know, Like if you give me a plate of like a bowl of fucking diarrhea and someone else gives me a turd on a plate, I don't want either one. But the thing too is I don't even know if like because they're so ideologically motivated, I think that they can't even comprehend that the people that don't like their shit aren't necessarily evil. They just don't like it and have a more basic set of beliefs or values or whatever. Like they're so out of touch. Like if they were to ask me, like, "Hey, Filthy, come advise us on this next Star Wars script." You know, whatever. Like, give us an outline, whatever. They would think I was a lunatic, and if they got one look at me, they would probably just assume the worst anyway. Since you guys haven't seen my face, but I look very Aryan. I always joke with my grandmother that if Hitler won, I'd still be here. Oh, what's up, Gonzalez? Yeah, he says, I haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels. My childhood was just rewatching the OT and VHS tapes. Yeah, exactly. So for a lot of people, like this shit with Star Wars is like way out of fucking left field. And that's what I was wondering with Ahsoka too, because Ahsoka is a character that if you've only seen the live action stuff, you're like, who is this fucking lump? Why is she popular? Like why would anyone like her? She's boring as shit. She's somehow part of everything, but doesn't really do anything or show any emotion. I mean, I liked Ahsoka's arc in the Clone Wars, and I actually didn't even mind her presence in Rebels. But if you just saw the Ahsoka show or her random pop-ups in Mandalorian, I think you would just have to be like, who the hell is this? Like, what's the deal here? All you need to know about Star Wars is that Darth Vader is really evil, but Anakin blew up the Death Star, and that was bad too. Hibcomer says, I think you're beautiful. Thank you very much. But yeah, so like this stuff with Star Wars, man, it's frustrating. And the reason I titled that video is Star Wars Irrelevant or Star Wars is Irrelevant. I started a script for a video a while ago, and I don't know if you guys remember it or not. There was an article that came out about how Disney had actually lost money on Star Wars since they bought it. At least the movies, right? I think we don't know about. What the fuck is shooting me? Oh, is there a glitch? Oh god, there's a fucking glitch. Let me see if I can do anything about this. So there's a where the fuck is it? So I started a script for a while ago. I think I might still finish it now because I'm pissed off about the Acolyte. That what I did was I took a look at just the money of Star Wars over time since the 70s. And not to calculate exactly how much they made or anything, but I also looked at the tickets of the box office at the time. So the average ticket cost, right? Tell, don't show, showrunner decisions over established lore and characters, poor acting, poor dialogue. Yeah, the Acolyte is like the culmination of just incompetence. Really, it's unbelievable. And so the video that I started the script for, that I kind of just ditched after that article came out, is what I was looking at is the box office and the ticket sales, both like revenue and how many people are actually watching Star Wars things. And I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but if you think about the fact that The Force Awakens, right, did $2 billion at the box office. Got 2 million, they'd be losing their fucking minds. $2 billion at the box office. They and let's just assume for the sake of this conversation, $10 a ticket on average. That's 200 million people that went and saw the movie. If you want, let's call 10% of that rewatches and whatever. So 180 million people saw The Force Awakens in theater. Then who knows how many people saw it once it came to Netflix and blah, 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 right? All right, I'm gonna have to fucking load my last checkpoint, damn it. Books will be written about books. Oh, books will be written in business schools. Will have lectures about this woke madness. Yeah, it's insane. So if you consider the fact that 180 million people, just rough numbers, saw Force Awakens in theater, and then you talk about The Acolyte, the first week, 11 million people watched it worldwide. Like, I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand why they push Star Wars to Disney Plus. Because you have to figure even something like Kenobi, which that one they never announced numbers for, but Ahsoka did 14 million worldwide. They did announce that. So let's assume Kenobi did like double, so 30 million. They've thrown away a fraction of their audience. They've thrown away a majority of their audience, literally just moving from theaters to streaming. And then on top of that, every single streaming show they've done has been, I would say, bad to horrible. I haven't seen Andor. I haven't seen Kenobi. Didn't bother with Mando season 3 because, why? After season 2. And they this is what their push is. So they've invested billions, maybe even tens of billions, into their streaming platform and thrown away 75% of the audience, 80% of the audience. And that, so, who knows what's that? Jesus, I can't talk. Who knows what that's done to merchandise sales, kind of just cultural relevance overall. Like, they've just ravaged the Star Wars brand. So that's kind of what the video that I was going to make, and now I might make it again, was talking about was, just financially, what are they thinking, right? And then on top of the finances, does anyone care about like the cultural footprint of Star Wars now? Like, I wasn't alive at this point, but, like Reagan, after one of his speeches in the 80s, said, "And may the Force be with us." Like, yeah, Mark Hamill went and talked for Biden at the White House a couple weeks ago, but that's just Hollywood. That's not like Star Wars, making a big imprint. So I just, like, what Disney has done, I don't know if it's malice because they just are so ideologically motivated that they hate all of the fans, or they simply hate things that are quote unquote old because of the values that they think they represent, or if it's just incompetence to an unbelievable degree that they just live in their bubble and think that like this is what the people want. Like, we're going to get rid of those bad audience members who are mean and immoral for the good young ones. I honestly don't know if it's one or the other or both. But I don't think anyone can deny that the last, I don't know, let's say 15 years, the culture has been dominated by comic books. Comic book movies, not comic books, right? Comic book sales are, well, they're pretty much just shut down at this point. I think Star Wars has a place in culture, but Disney is ruining it. Well, I partially agree, but you have to wonder, right? Because there's a lot of Star Wars fans who are, if you've been a Star Wars fan since you were a kid for the originals, you're, let's say, 50s right now, 60. So those people still love Star Wars. And then the people my age who, I saw the original movies as a kid. I saw the prequel trilogy in theaters. And those movies aren't great, but they didn't hate the fans. And they, obviously they've got their issues. But then after my generation, it's really hard for me to imagine that any of the younger people give a shit about Star Wars. Like, I know that they'll say they do, and their parents will say they do. But I just can't imagine that there's any little kid out there thinking, I want to be Rey or Finn when I grow up, or Poe. It's hard for me to imagine that there's any of that on any kind of significant degree, So I think that that's what we're going to see is, and we're already kind of seeing it. Like the numbers are tapering off. It's just slowly fading away. And as the older audience, ages out, aka dies, there is no replacement. Like I think Star Wars is in big trouble already, and then even bigger trouble long term. How old are you, if you don't mind saying? Early 30s. I never said before because I felt there wasn't a reason to, but I figured the way that I talk, people could guess roughly anyway, like the references that I make and stuff. But I just don't see a future where Star Wars has like the impact on kids today that it did on my life as a kid. And, for people who, it's actually pretty close. Mr. Divine guessed 33. I too am 33. Yeah, so we're about the same age. But it's funny, I assume everyone's young on here. Since people say I sound like a child, I don't guess anyone's age is based on how their voice sounds. Yeah, I'll be honest. Everybody on YouTube, anybody that watches my stuff, I'm like, oh, they're probably like 20, 18. Which I said something like that to Jay, who Jay comments on a lot of my stuff. I like Jay. He's the one who recommended Mad Max, actually. And his next recommendation was Taxi Driver. So I'll be doing that one for July for him. I thought Jay was like 20, and I think he's actually like twice my age. Based on some of his comments talking about growing up on Mad Max and stuff. It's just one of those biases that I think I've had because I grew up, since you guys are about my age, you probably remember this. Like being a kid, there was no internet, or if you were lucky, you had like dial up. And then all of a sudden, everything was internet, but everyone wanted to be anonymous. And then after that, it became like the social media era. And but either way, because I was a kid when I was on the internet, and back at the time, your parents didn't use internet, so you just assumed that everyone on there is either like an adult who's a loser, or a kid, or some kind of creep, catfisher. Yeah, we had the Wild West days of the internet. Yeah, Newgrounds and E-Bombs World and all that. Forums, AIM. Oh yeah, AIM was where I lived in middle school. I used to change my screen name like every month, it felt like, to some ridiculous nonsense. But yeah, so I feel like our age group, for the people who saying that they're about the same age as me, like I grew up on the original trilogy. I even got my sister into it, who's a few years younger than me. And now, well, not only is Star Wars falling off to where I don't think kids can latch onto it, it's also competing with video games and streamers and, all this celebrity worship. There's a million shows and movies coming out, but with the binge model, their cultural impact's kind of falling off too, I think. I just don't think Star Wars is really fit for this era, and at least not in the quality that's being made. I think Star Wars could have been a phenom if it had been run like the MCU, but competently. I'll catch you. All right, see you, Shamrock. Hey, I'll message you on Discord. I think for the stream, maybe next week. Someone mentioned me doing a letterbox thing and like ranking movies, so I might do that since I'll have more time next Sunday. And then maybe I'll try to get people on if you're around, the couple after that. I just need to see who's available and who wants to come on and that sort of thing. Because it's tough when you're a small channel. You kind of need to associate with other small channels, but because everybody has a small channel, they're not making a living doing this. Do I have a Discord group? No way. My channel is way too small for that. And I'll be honest, even if it wasn't, I don't know if I'm competent enough to have one. Or I don't even know how hard it is to create one. So, but yeah. So I'm gonna try to mix it up a little bit these next couple weeks, because these 2 weeks I've been busy for this thing tomorrow that I have, and but, I think streams are probably just better too when I have someone to talk to and bounce back and forth with. Because I think it's hard to listen to one person just talk and talk and talk for hours. I mean, even someone like Bill Burr, who's a famous stand-up, I don't find his podcast particularly fun to listen to. Like, I'll check it out. Maybe I'll check the clips out. But just listen to someone kind of ramble to themselves for an hour, especially the way that he does it, because he's not talking to chat either. He's just talking to himself and making jokes to himself. It's tough. I think it's really helpful to have a partner or a group or whatever, which is part of why I was trying to figure out StreamYards. But I think what I might be able to do is maybe just pull Mass Effect up on one window and then Zoom up on my computer. And then that way you guys can have the audio from Zoom and the visuals from Mass Effect. But that's something I'll have to test out and mess with a little bit. But yeah, as far as Star Wars, I just, like, if you just look at the numbers alone, like the Rise of Skywalker made $1 billion, right? And I actually heard that it lost money because they did so many reshoots and stuff that the budget ended up blowing up to like $500 million. But even if that's not true, let's just say it made $1 billion, right? Average tickets $10, whatever. That means you've got 100 million people seeing that movie. So even just from Force Awakens to Rise of Skywalker, audience cut in half. That doesn't include Solo, which only made like 450 million. And then you've got all the Disney Plus shows that it sounds like they're lucky if they hit, 10, 15 million. So in 5 years, they've had no movies. Just ask ChatGPT if you need help with the technical stuff. Yeah, maybe. I actually haven't used ChatGPT. But yeah, so like just looking at the numbers of their own audience, if we assume every Disney Plus show gets 20 million viewers, right? Even 30, they've thrown away 2/3 of their audience just by moving to a streaming platform. And that doesn't even include the people who, watch one episode and say, I'm good. I've seen enough of Fat Boba Fett or the boring ass Mandalorian. And the problem is seriously from the leadership at every level all the way down. Like, at no point is anyone asking, hey, is this a good story? Does this make sense? Is it fun? Like, what are we doing here? Yeah, Tyler just said so many failures with Star Wars and they just keep churning out sludge and they never ask, is there a story to tell here? Same with Marvel. Yeah. And I think it was Shamrock who just left, said that she watched the recent Iron Man recently. And it's crazy how much better the original, like the early Marvel movies were compared to the recent ones. And a huge thing for Star Wars 2 that I think has really screwed them, and I don't know if there's a way to quantify this, is the way that they've been bad hasn't just been incompetence. They've been complete assholes to the fans. So, it's one thing to make a bad show, right? Like if you make enough seasons of a show or enough spin-offs or, you're doing enough in a universe, books, comics, there's going to be some bad ones. That's the nature of storytelling, of humans. That's just how shit is. it's one thing to do that. It's another to do that and then come out and say, fuck you guys. It's your fault. And that's what they've done. Give me 1 second. I think my wife locked the cat in the other room. So what I was saying was, it's one thing, right, to botch a show. Make a bad show, happens, move on. Say, we did our best, we fucked up. But they don't do that. They keep saying, not only are we making shit, we're making shit bad because we don't care about it, because we have a message that we want to push, because this story is about me, because I want to see myself represented in the story, and fuck you if you don't like it. So there's no way to quantify how many fans out there will just say, okay, you don't want me as a fan? I won't be. And they'll just slowly, back into the bushes like Homer. Apparently Marvel, this is from, how do you say her name? Hibcomer? All right, Hibby. Hibby says, apparently Marvel has now realized they've messed up and they fired a bunch of producers. They're trying to fix things, but it'll take years. And then, yeah, Tyler says they have so much bad faith now. And Mr. Divine says, can Marvel still be saved? I mean, to me, in theory, anything could be saved. If you're asking, will it be? No. Because something that people don't seem to take into account, and this will kind of play into what you're saying, Hibcomer, is they can fire all the producers they want. They would have to fire, I think, like every person within like probably 5 different levels of the company. Because what you have to understand is people in workplaces, and you guys are all my age, I'm sure you've seen this a lot just in your own lives. The people who get promoted aren't usually the people who are the most qualified or who've done the best job. There's an element of, well, do they get along with their other coworkers? Do they kiss the right asses? Do they know the right people? Like, is that something they choose to do? Maybe the most qualified person to be a manager, motherfucker. What did I get stuck on? Maybe the most qualified person to be a manager would say, I'd rather just stay the project engineer. I don't really want to manage people. Like I'm okay. I want to design buildings and not really deal with people. I'm an engineer. I'm awkward. So there's this element in every company where you have people who are not very creative, not good storytellers, maybe not even good managers. But because that's the way they navigate their career, they're able to get to the top. So even if you fire every producer, all of their assistants, every person that they've promoted under them is someone that's gotten along with them. They're not going to be like, they're not promoting people who are going to disagree with them, right? They're not the people who cause problems and disagree are not getting the promotions. It's going to be people who say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. This script is fucking great. And anyone who doesn't like it is an asshole. Tyler says, yeah, it isn't just the producers. They totally need to clean house. Yeah, exactly. Make a test for people coming in. How well do they know the comics and the history of the comics? What storylines would they want to adapt and why? Same for Star Wars. Get Sam Witwer in there. See, and that's the thing where I think you could use some balance, because if you just promote the hardcore Star Wars fans, right? Like, they're not all going to be good creatives either. But I think, like, to me, if I say I was down in Florida, ran into Kathleen Kennedy at the bar, seduced her, and took over her position, right? In this disgusting hypothetical. I would fire everybody. And then I would hire a bunch of people who are super lore familiar, who not for any writing, just they know the lore inside and out. That's all they do. And then I would say, okay, like this person has written this story, this sci-fi book, this sci-fi script, whatever. It's good. I think it would fit in Star Wars. And then I would say, okay, I want you to write the first draft, and this guy will be your lore advisor to make sure you're not, breaking anything out of canon, fucking anything up. So work with him to write your first draft. And then we're going to get some other writers with, just generally good experience in the industry. And you guys are going to edit and go through it together. And I would just leave them alone. And then I would, I would let them do their jobs, but also kind of not put them on rails, but you can't just let them do whatever they want either. Like that's what got Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi, that whole thing. Absolutely. They're a publicly traded company. Sooner or later, money will talk and they'll do what's needed. They already went through a crisis years ago with the comics. It's just another cycle of abundance. See, I would agree with you. And this is something I'm not super familiar with, but it seems to be an issue, is that like BlackRock and these big ass companies are just funding them regardless. So it doesn't even matter if they make money. Yeah, a team of lore experts. They needed that for the back half of Game of Thrones. Yeah, exactly. Because the problem is the most hardcore Star Wars fans, are not necessarily going to be your best writers. So, but I do think it's important to have people that care and that know the lore to be a part of it. Like, and this is something that is just an issue when you start kind of divvying out your universe to a bunch of different people. Is, you might have 100 different interpretations of what the limits of the Force should be and kind of how that should run. It's probably better to get an advisor on the lore versus finding fans as writers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I wouldn't hire fans to write unless they had proven they could, but you still need to have limits on them and make decisions. You can't just, people don't like to give studios credit for anything, but it's crazy how often a studio steps in and has made movies and shows better because they're like, hey, you're not going to do this crazy ass thing that's going to be super unpopular. Fix it. I mean, even just from the actors who have a lot of pick in their own roles, you hear stories all the time about if you get the right producers to hire the right people. That's true. But that's what I'm saying. You have to clean out like 5 levels of middle management. Because if you just fire them all, move everyone up the chain, you've done nothing. Like, the people close to them are going to be similar. But yeah, it's just, when you have this super expansive lore and all these people with input, you still have to have a central guiding view of how shit works. And what I was saying is, you see actors make this mistake all the time. Like Will Smith was supposed to be Neo in the original Matrix movie. And then you see, I can't remember the guy's name. He is the bad guy in Mission Impossible 2. I think turned down the role of Wolverine in the first X-Men movie that ended up being Hugh Jackman for 2 decades. Like, you never know what's going to be a hit, but I think about how much freedom Peter Jackson was given for Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is it really depends on who you're hiring, how much you can trust them. But that's one where Peter Jackson, you're right, he loved Lord of the Rings. Like you can see this in interview clips and stuff too, where he said, it wasn't about anything that we wanted in the movie. It was about what Tolkien would have wanted. And that attitude will go a long way. And a lot of Hollywood does not have it. The Halo show is a perfect example of this. They didn't give a shit what the fans wanted, what the lore said, what made it popular. They had a story that they wanted to tell, and Halo was nothing but a vessel. And that's what all these franchises are to these people, because many of them don't have any love for it. Or if they do, it's this really warped idea of what it actually is. I think it was J.J. Abrams that said, like, Han is cool because he shoots a blaster. Yeah, that didn't work as well for The Hobbit. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, is even with these great creators, they have hits and misses too. I mean, who are the biggest names right now for creators? Probably Christopher Nolan, Tarantino. I mean, even people like Ridley Scott. He's about to have Gladiator 2 come out. Like all the Spielberg hasn't had a big hit in forever. James Cameron hasn't really done shit in a long time. So even the people who are great still miss. And that's what I was going to say. I think the other part of it is, if I was in charge, I might just ban people from being on social media. Like, as long as you're above a certain status in this company, you're not going to be on social media. Because nothing good comes from it. Like, has anyone ever been like, I wasn't going to see this movie, but Bob Buttfucker, who's the CEO, had this sick tweet that agreed with my politics, so I want to go see it. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's, it's just detrimental. Like, exposing themselves as complete assholes isn't helping any of their branding. And I would make that a company policy. Like, look, if you're high up enough that you can be seen as representative of the company's views, you're not on fucking Twitter. And I guess that's a little bit authoritarian. I don't give a shit. Because this is something that, like, the channels that, even the ones that I like Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, all those guys, a part of their living has just been following these people on social media. Or just posting their interviews. Studio was all up in the Hobbit's ass. They wanted Del Toro. He got canned. And they brought in Jackson to clean it up at the last minute. And stayed down his throat. Then they won in 3 movies. Yeah, so it sounds like that one was just a nightmare. Well, and that's another thing too, is these corporations, ironically, they think that bleeding things dry is the best way to make money. When the irony is if you let creators make good projects that they're passionate about, with some restrictions, obviously, they can't have total free reign. And the stuff that they make is good. That is what will make them the most money. Like, that's the irony of all this cash grab, nostalgia bait bullshit. Is if you just let stuff happen organically with kind of keeping it, not on rails, but in a certain range of normalcy, then they'll make the money. And I'm sure that sounds tyrannical for me to be like, yeah, if I was in charge, they wouldn't be on social media. But, I mean, how much money do you think has been lost just from interviews that these people have done before movies and press tours? I would wager the last 5 years, it's got to be in the range of billions. The studio technically owns film since they're paying for it. I'm not saying that the studio should get super involved, because I've heard crazy stories about that shit too, where they'll come in and be like, I want this obscene, insane thing in the movie. I don't care how it gets there. But I don't really understand this thing of, let's hand someone $200 million who hasn't really proven they can earn it back. Or maybe, depending on who it is, hasn't proven anything at all. And then just letting them have total control. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with a studio. With a studio saying, look, this is roughly the story that we want to tell. So we're going to give you, you have free reign within those guidelines. I mean, that's basically what storytelling is anyway. Hollywood studio economics still require tentpole films to fund all the other projects. Yeah, exactly. So the studios are not giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to let artsy people experiment. They're just not. Headcomer for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he asked them for a lot of time to fix it, but they said no. Makes me wonder about the hunt for Gollum. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. because I honestly don't know what to think. And then we have the War of the Rohirrim coming out in, I think, December. The animated Lord of the Rings. I believe it's a prequel to the trilogy, right? To the Fellowship trilogy. Oh shit! This is like the hardest fight in the game. Such a pain in the ass. If a movie loses more, that can be a tax write-off. I think so, but then you have to remember, like let's say they can write off the whole thing. I doubt they can, but let's just say they can for the sake of the conversation. Like, does the studio really care? You know, are you fuckers? Because at some point, like if you're looking at something like also budgets get inflated for creative accounting purposes. It's like, why do these movies all cost so much? Yeah, that's what I was actually saying. I think it was last stream. It just feels like money laundering at some point. Like it really does. I hate how fucking aggressive this clone is, because it makes it really hard to deal with. Like the enemy has a shitload of health, so if they're hyper aggressive, there's not really too much you can do. And then Rex and Tali just fucking ditched me, or Tali. What I was saying though was like, let's say we have a movie, I don't know, Iron Man 5, whatever, that we're comfortable spending $200 million to make. Okay, well, if you're an investor, right, you're thinking, yeah, war is going to be like 80 to 100 years before Lord of the Rings. But apparently it's in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings universe, and he's a producer for it. So I'm hoping they put a lot of effort and detail into it. Yeah, I hope so. And then you also have to worry that, maybe Jackson's ego has gotten too big, and at some point it's going to be more and more his vision and less Tolkien's. That's the thing that happens too, and people change. I mean, Lord of the Rings at this point was made 30 years ago. Maybe 25, whatever it was, a while ago. I mean, look at Arcane, the love of the game, and attention to detail, and sheer amount of effort put into it. Yeah. And there's plenty of stuff that a lot of effort gets put into that's dog shit. But yes, I agree. Like, a lot of what we're seeing is just a result of corporations just shitting stuff out. What I was saying about the money there, right, was because somebody was asking about tax write-offs. It's like, even let's say they can write off everything, right? So they can just zero it out at the end. But if you're an investor, and they say, okay, we're going to spend $200 million on Iron Man 5. Well, there's an expectation there that the box office is $1 billion, right? Like, it's not as so, and the movie makes, let's say it makes I don't know, 400 million at the box office, whatever. Not essentially, like, it loses a little bit of money. They write off the rest, not the end of the world. Well, if you're an investor, you have to be looking at that as, okay, well, I thought we were going to bring in, 600 more million at the box office, which is 300 million more out of our pocket. Like, what the fuck are we doing? I didn't want to spend $200 million to make none. So there is this aspect of, even if they never lose a single dollar, which I don't fucking believe, there's still the component of, we want to make money. We're not here to just not lose money. We're here to win. It's kind of like sports, right? Like, you hear people say they're not playing to win, they're playing to not lose. That's kind of the mentality that seems is going on right now in Hollywood. Like, they just don't lose an ass load. They're trying to call it a win. I remember my family used to build sets, and he told me that a screw on a set would cost $5, then $7 extra to screw it in on paper. Yeah, you see that kind of stuff in the military too, in the government. And at some point for studios, that bubble burst. The government is a little bit different because, they'll just print more money or use politics as a justification for why they need to, blah, blah, blah. But for corporations, if they're not living off the government teat, they have to make choices at some point. So I'm hoping that we get to the point where they have to start making choices And I heard, and this isn't something that I verified, that last year for 2023, that there was like 600 shows made between all the networks, streaming services, blah, 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 for Hollywood, not including international media. And this year, it's going to be like 300. So like just in a year, they're dropping off like half. Seriously, this fight is like one of the worst fights in the game. And it's actually way harder on... Motherfucker. It's actually way harder on the Legendary Edition than it was in the original. Because in the original, he was way less aggressive than he is here. Like this one you've seen, he's just fucking running right at me. But yeah, like I understand there's all kinds of accounting bullcrap you can do. But at the end of the day, you have to have viewers, you have to have success. I don't know. To me, it's just I just don't see how this can continue. I really don't. And that, like none of that even takes into account you know, all the other stuff they're competing with. I mean, you guys should probably remember, like back when we were kids, video games were a hobby for losers. Like, that's not the case now. Like, you have people going into esports and streaming for careers. So people who like video games also are going into video games just, you know, as their full-time hobby. So to me, they're just losing in so many different facets. I just think they're in trouble. Yeah, this boss is a fucking nightmare, man. Because look, he's literally just walking up to me blasting. I can't do anything except run. Because obviously I can't kill him as fast as he can kill me. Piece of shit. Oh, shit. That was lucky. I'm playing a video game right now. That's what I'm saying. Like all of this accounting shit and all of that is like true. But then there's also just the component of there's also just the aspect of people are divided, have their attention in a lot of places. And then with stuff like fantasy sports, you know, sports ratings for a lot of stuff are still kind of in flux, but they've become very social things too. Like it's not just, you know, Sundays, it's whatever. It's, you know, playing fucking cornhole during the week and pickleball and whatever else. Like there's just way too many options now for Hollywood to keep producing garbage. And like in some sense, you know, like yeah, people will have Netflix on, they'll get their ad revenue, which is, you know, all true for them and good for them money-wise. But at the same time, they're competing with a lot. They're competing with a lot of shit. And I just don't know how sustainable these massive budgets are. Am I going to play the Elden Ring DLC? Well, I haven't even played Elden Ring, so not looking good right now for that. I mean, also, you guys probably can't tell from the streams, but I've literally only played Xbox on stream for the last month. So every Sunday for this hour and a half, whatever, is the only time that I've played. And obviously my progress is slower because I'm talking to you guys and kind of divide my attention too. And since we were talking about Star Wars and all these big budget studios and stuff, I think the Acolyte is kind of the death knell of Star Wars. To kind of circle back to that for the culture. Like yeah, the Witches of Dathomir were a thing, and they were in the books apparently. I haven't read it. The Star Wars EU is huge. So I've read a couple of the trilogies, the Darth Bane one and the Thrawn one, but I'm nowhere near as entrenched in that one as I am like Halo. Or even Mass Effect, really. Or Gears of War. Because, Gears of War has books too. They're actually pretty good. But this Acolyte shit, man, people are just over it. I mentioned it kind of offhand in my video. Ahsoka for the first episodes got 14 million views. Acolyte for the first ones got 11. So before you've done anything, you're looking at over a 20% drop in audience. At least in interest, right? And we don't even know how high it was for Mando at the peak or Kenobi. Andor and Ahsoka were about the same level, but Andor kind of just disappeared. Like that's the thing too. Like when we talk about culture and cultural impact and footprint, who talks about Star Wars after these shows end? Like once Kenobi ended, or once Mando season 2 ended, which was like the peak of it, does anyone care after a couple weeks? Like the Marvel movies have had this problem too, where after a month of a movie being out, it's just completely disappeared into the ether. One of the things I will say are the costume designs for Halo, except for Master Chief, is supposed to be a Mark V. I mean, I'll be honest, that kind of detail, like I appreciate when they do it, but if the costume looks good on screen, I can mostly live with it. But it is just, man, it's just so disappointing because the aesthetics for Halo, considering the budget, I didn't particularly mind, but they just made so many decisions that it's like, what the hell are you doing, man? And even for the Acolyte, like they spent almost $200 million on the production. For the most part, like, yeah, they've got a couple aliens and stuff, and the visuals look fine, but the Jedi just wear robes, It's not like you need intensive costumes. And like, we're not seeing a ton of sets. Like, it's very clearly they're filming in a little studio, which is why you don't see any of the city or anything. I'm doing a Justified rewatch right now instead of watching The Acolyte. Decided not to watch the new one after your review. Justified is so good. Yeah, Justified's really good. I actually rewatched that maybe 3 months ago because I had forgotten a lot of it. And I was kind of salty after Justified Primeval, which I made a couple of videos about that one. It's funny, that's one of the ones where I praised that one after the first 3 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes. I said it was off to a good start. And then by the end of the season, I was like, fuck this show. Like, they just completely phoned it in. No one gave a fuck. It's so funny. I had a guy call me racist the other day on my Justified Primeval video because I said that it took me out of the show when Timothy Oliphant and that lawyer lady hooked up because he's so much more attractive than she is. And he called me racist, which is hilarious. Like, the problem wasn't that she was black. The problem is that she was just unfortunate looking. And Timothy Oliphant, for a 50-year-old dude, is a pretty boy. Sopranos, anyone? No, I haven't seen that one. I've heard really good things about it, and I've heard mixed things about the ending. Because I've heard people talk about Sopranos, and I've heard people talk about The Wire. But both of them, I think I just missed because I didn't have HBO back then. I was pretty sure I was still a kid when those came out. But I know they were super popular. Because I remember Sopranos being one of those shows that people were like, oh, gotta get home on Sunday by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever it was to, you know, make sure I see The Sopranos. Which that's an aspect of TV that, you know, I'm glad that it's gone, but I am a little bit nostalgic for it sometimes. That like you had to cut out time to see your shows. It's nice not having to schedule around TV now, obviously, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of value when everyone watches something at the same time, and you know, you can all talk about it the next day and speculate, and it's fun. And now it's like, I'll wait 2 months, stay off the internet, binge it. The ending of Sopranos is fine. It's set up well, makes sense. Wire is fantastic. Yeah, I've heard only good things about both, so I'm not surprised. It ends decently. I think the last HBO show that I watched in full, besides Game of Thrones, was Boardwalk Empire. And that was one where I know people were not super thrilled about the ending. I was okay with it. There was a little bit too much weird stuff in Boardwalk for me with, I think his name was Jimmy, and his mom. But beyond that, I thought it was a pretty good show. I mean, I really liked, Nucky. I'm Steve Buscemi. And I always liked Michael Shannon as Van Hoosen or whatever his name was. I was watching the Xbox game showcase and still confused to how the Life is Strange series of games still exist. Yeah, I'll be honest. Because I don't get to play much anymore, just, because I'm busy. The only thing that I saw that really appealed to me were probably Steve Buscemi was so good. Yeah, he was really good. And actually the guy that plays Daredevil was good in that too, as the Irish guy. Charlie Cox, I think is his name. Was Gears of War E-Day, which I'll be honest, that surprised me because I thought for sure they'd go with Gears of War 6. Since they have they have 5 come out, it ended open-ended. It kind of makes me wonder if the reception for the story of 5 was so bad that they were like, we better do a game prequel and then use that time to recalibrate the story. And then Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater Delta looked really good. I love the Metal Gear games. I actually have them on here. Let me see. I think I have them downloaded already. Yeah. They had this for like $5, this Metal Gear Solid HD edition. So fun. But yeah, for me, because I don't play very much, Metal Gear Solid and Gears of War were the only things that I was like, oh, okay. Because Gears of War, like I said, I read the first 5 books, which go along with the first trilogy. And I read one of the ones after, but it was about Kate mainly. And I just don't really care about Kate. And then they've also done, I don't know if you guys have played Gears or not, but they did this kind of weird retconning thing with the Locust where they brought him back and made him even more locusty, I don't know. Because I feel like, and maybe I'm just misremembering because it's been so long. Maybe I should install the Gears games and play those. But I feel like the original Locust thing was that it was people who were like working down in the mines and shit, and they mutated. And there was experiments, being done that mutated them. And then they did something in Gears 5. I wish I could remember the specifics now. It's been a while because I played that shit when it came out like 5 years ago, where the Berserker mom was like originally created somehow, and I don't know if she gave birth to the Locust. It was all weird. I don't know. Not something I was a huge fan of. Let's see. I'm 17, but I found myself enjoying more older games recently. Yeah, if you ever like, see, this is 2000. I think this was 2001 or no 2000. I want to say 2001 and 2003 for Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. But even for the time, the graphics were so good. I don't even know what my last game was on this one. Oh yeah, I got pissed off at the helicopter fight. Yeah. Um but yeah, I just don't get time for games much anymore. So, and I'll be honest, I pre-ordered Andromeda. Wasn't it Kate's mom, the Locust Queen or something? Yeah, they did something like that where maybe I don't know if she was like the daughter of the queen and Kate was the granddaughter or something. The only game I play is Smash Bros. That's a good choice. Yeah, and then they had I can't remember what they're called. No, were they called just the Swarm, the new ones? So then you had like the Swarm or whatever they're fucking called. And I don't know if they gave birth to Kate's mom because her grandma was the Locust Queen, and then Kate's the daughter of the Swarm Queen, or I don't know. It's a lot of shit that clearly wasn't planned out. And, when you don't plan, it's hit or miss. But and then they shifted the story away from JD, which I thought was just, to me, that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, okay, like that decision wasn't made. That wasn't made for a story writing decision. That was made for probably culture war bullshit. So yeah, just I don't know. But what I was gonna say was I pre-ordered Andromeda. I pre-ordered Infinite. I think I pre-ordered the Legendary Edition for Mass Effect. I think I pre-ordered Gears 5 also. And I'm just so tired of these big budget games coming out with issues. And then it's like, I don't really have the time for video games. So that's why I end up just playing old games. And then I'm here with you guys talking to chat. It's like, I'm not going to play, like Halo Lazo and try to talk to you guys at the same time. Like Mass Effect is just an easy game for me to stick on and, kind of cruise through while I'm talking to you guys. But I think I'm going to start wrapping up here for today. I was just focused on co-op multiplayer on Gears of War 5 with my old college buddies. Yeah, Gears of War, I used to play that 2 with iStad in college all the time. We would we'd load up Gears 2 and then order fucking pizza, stay up half the night. FC, do you play FC is me. Do you play D&D? No, I never did. I have friends who did, and I've heard it's fun. Just one of those things I never got into. I mean, growing up, I played a ton of like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, obviously original Xbox and 360, PlayStation 2. And then as I've gotten older, I just don't have the time. When you're a kid, you've got unlimited energy. So, you go to school, I played sports, and outside of that, it's like, what am I doing? I'm not making my own meals. I'm fucking wound up, play Xbox, but whatever, play PlayStation. It's the game of games. Reach has to be my favorite game, edging out too. I'll be honest, Reach for me probably falls below the entire original trilogy. I think Halo 2 is probably the best, and that's probably also the one that I spent the most time on. Because I was like, I don't remember what grade I was in when Halo 2 came out, and I started getting on Xbox Live. But I spent an entire summer where I would just wake up at 10 in the morning, play Halo 2 online till like midnight, and that was it. And that was back, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, back people used to stand by and cheat and all this shit. And so you had these level 50s and stuff who were just fucking cheaters. But I was actually good enough at the time to get to about like level 30, like low 30s before I would start to get my ass kicked, which at the time was still really good. But above level like 30-ish, you were getting to the cheaters and just people who were just so good that you weren't going to beat them. But I'm way worse now. Like maybe I'll load up, maybe for one of these streams, I'll try to load up MCC because I already have it on here and I can play online. It'll be rough to watch though, I'm sure, for you guys. Is Halo 3 underrated? I think so fondly of it. Halo 3 Online, I think people forget how good it was because that was when it started getting pretty competitive. That was when you started getting like the bubbles and the oh shit, what are they called? Like the shield deflectors and the jumps, and you know, that was when people were really good at the game. The BR is my favorite. Yeah, I love the battle rifle. I love the Halo 2 Anniversary Online shit. But I think Halo 3 campaign-wise, looking back, even though I love it, I think it could probably use some tightening up in the story. I think like the kind of one that everyone remembers is when one of the guys says to Miranda, "Where are we going?" and she cocks her gun and says, "To war." There's like that type of shit in there. But overall, I loved Halo 3. And then bringing back the Warthog run to end the game was so good. If you guys ever get bored or like you just need something on in the background, you guys should check out the Halo speed runs. Those dudes are unbelievable. I mean, a lot of it is kind of knowing where glitches are and stuff. But even the parts that they do have to play, you can tell that they're just good at the fucking game. Or they just are. Armor lock and reach sucks. Yeah, every time I hear armor lock, all I think of is RB and the Chief. With Master Chief going armor lock, armor lock, armor lock, armor lock. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap up here today. I actually have something I have to do for the rest of the day. Someone mentioned Letterboxd to me. Let me look at that real quick before I get off here, so I know what it actually is. Letterboxd. But someone mentioned doing one on stream, or maybe just doing it. I thought it was the type of thing where you start your own list. Okay, so I just have to sign up and it looks, maybe I'll check that out then. Yeah, if that's if the Letterboxd thing is easy and something I can do on stream, maybe instead of playing Mass Effect next time, I'll do like a film list for that. Nice stream, dude. Looking forward to your thoughts on book 3. Oh, for Avatar. Yeah, I'm hoping I can get it watched over the course of this week, because typically that's one that I watch. I'll watch like a couple episodes each night. You know, before bed or whatever. So maybe I'll get that video out like next week sometime. I am rewatching Free Aaron right now and taking notes because I want to do a long video on that show. But I'm rewatching it with my wife, so that'll probably be a little bit slow to get it watched. We just started the other night and got 2 episodes in. And then I think I might do a couple Star Wars videos. Obviously, I'll do the Acolyte episode 4 Tuesday. Probably come out Wednesday. And then let's see. I might do that Star Wars video about if the franchise is becoming culturally irrelevant and financially worthless. Because I do want to talk about that. And then if I feel like skimming through The Boys, I might do a short video on The Boys and just how it's always been bad since season 2. And I don't know why it took people 2.5 seasons to figure it out. But the Letterboxd thing looks fun. Maybe I'll start it real quick on my own sometime and then just kind of make that the stream next week of me kind of rating different films and grouping them together. I'll have to see exactly how the site works. I just glanced at it. But yeah, I think I do miss the days of just playing Halo Online all the time. That was so nice. I actually used to play even when I had my first job because I worked night shift. So I'd come home, wife would be at work, play a little bit of Halo. But anyway. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Arby and the Chief, you should go check it out. It's hilarious. Some of the humor is kind of juvenile, but I think a lot of it's just funny. And the guy, John, that made it, he does podcasts too. He is kind of like this, where he just talks by himself. And he's on EFAP a bunch too. He seems like a nice guy. Anyway, as far as the channel, that's kind of what's going on. I don't think there's any movies coming out anytime soon for me to discuss, or at least not any that I have a particular interest in. So it's good talking to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend or what's left of it. And we go take care of the shit that I need to. For the member request right now, by the way, all I have is Zega for this month of Avatar Season 3. And then for July for Jay, Taxi Driver. And I think as of now I'm caught up. So, and then beyond that, let's see. Oh, damn it. I forgot to change this to live chat. Piece of crap. Oh, well. Ah! No. There we go. Anyway. Yeah, so that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully be here next Sunday around the same time. I'll go for as long as I feel like that day because my stuff will be done, my personal stuff. All right. See you guys.